Hello, my name is Andrew, and in this video we're going to do a mega review of 20 different Vivobarefoot shoes and boots that I've tested over the years. And it's a good time to do it because my code FULTY25 is active right now for only 4 more days until December 5th. So if you want to get 25% off, this is the best time to do it, and Vivo has told me that it's not going to come back anytime soon. So without any further ado, let's get into some shoes. And one of my favorite Vivos of all time is the Sensus. This is like one of the lightest barefoot shoes you can buy. It's super light, super flexible, feels like almost nothing. Kind of has like a baseball glove feel to it with the soft leather upper. It's completely leather on the top, and then it's got a wide toe box, and it's a bit stretchy, which is nice. It's not extra wide, you know, but it does have a stitch sole for durability. It feels really good for running, for cross training, and kind of like cool medium weather. If you get kind of into hotter stuff or you're doing sprinting with this in 80 degrees, it can get a little bit sweaty. They do have some minor airflow cuts here, which is nice, but overall you might want to go with something mesh if you're doing super intense training. But overall it feels really good in the winter, especially too. Has a 3mm sole, so extremely flexible. You can twist it multiple times over. This is probably one of the most flexible barefoot shoes. Most brands don't make 3mm shoes, but I really like Vivo's rubber. It's tacky, it's durable, and my original Primus Lights for 3mm, and I still use them once in a while just for fun. Another great road shoe is the Vivobarefoot Primus Light Knit, and this is the successor to the original Primus Light. It's got a knit upper, it's really stretchy. I like this better than the original because it feels a bit softer and smoother, more kind of sock-like, you know, you can slip it on, which is nice. Has a bit of padding there. Has a 4mm sole, so just a little bit thicker than the Sensus. This is a good one for some medium type training, cross training, running, sprinting, that sort of thing. It's a little bit more breathable than the Sensus because there's lots of holes here, but it's also versatile for winter too. Another similar option is the Vivobarefoot Asana, and this also has a knit upper, but it's a wool and leather blend. I think it looks really cool. It's kind of like a Star Wars speeder bike, you know? There's lots of nice breathability here. Again, it's kind of like a mid-temperature, all-season use, unless you're doing super hot stuff where, you know, the wool might get a little bit too hot since it's a bit thicker, but, you know, it's nice up to about 70 degrees. It's more of a casual cross trainer that you can use for lifestyle stuff. Also has a 4mm sole, just like the Primus Light Knit. If you want something for cross training and gym workouts specifically, this is the Vivobarefoot Modus Flex. It's also got a wide toe box, but really stretchy, so it's gonna accommodate most foot shapes, which is nice. It has these bungee laces, so very easy to slip on, but then the side portions on both the inside and outside go up really high, so you get a lot of really good support for going back and forth. And also some support in the back. The heel wraps around, so any kind of jumping, rope climbing, parkour, it's also really good for that. It's a good running shoe too. I mean, I think it's a little bit overkill if you just want it for running, you know, but the sole is interesting. Like, they've just cut it in so many different places, so it just adds flexibility everywhere. And overall, it's just a great movement option. For hiking and trail running, this is my favorite option. It's the Vivobarefoot Primus Trail Knit FG. It's got a knit upper, which is really stretchy. I like it. They've added some holes here for a bit of breathability. It feels more comfortable to me than the original Primus FG, which we'll talk about. But it has a slip-on upper, which is great for easily getting the shoe on and off, especially if you get stones in your feet, things like that. It's got Vivo's FG sole, which is my favorite trail sole. It's 5.5mm, so it's like right in the middle of the road where it's got, you know, some good protection, but also a good amount of grip for multiple surfaces. The only thing that you can't really use it for is like steep, slippery hills, you know, because it's just not quite deep enough. But pretty much everything else, it's got you covered, and also has some really good protection up front. Like I said, this is the Vivobarefoot Primus Trail FG, not the knit, it's a mesh version. This is really nice for super hot conditions, or if you're doing like really fast runs where you need a lot of breathability or not quite as much protection from water, but pretty much the same feature with the sole. It is a little bit more medium width, which is why I don't like this one as much as the knit, and it just doesn't have quite as much stretch, so it just depends on what you need, but it's probably not gonna fit people with wider feet. For wetter training, this is the Vivobarefoot Primus Trail Knit SG. It's basically the same thing as the Knit FG, you know, it has that slip-on upper, nice wide toe box, stretchy, but then on the bottom, you've got a 7mm SG sole, which stands for soft ground. It's got a kind of claw-like, more spaced out lug pattern to it and chevron shaped lugs, so it grips really well going up steep muddy hills, and same thing going down, different direction in the back. They're a little bit closer together for some more protection, but this is great for slippery conditions like slush and mud and things like that, but it will wear down a little bit faster on like roads or harder gravel, that kind of thing. If you want a super rugged hiking shoe, this is the Vivobarefoot AT Low. They have also the regular AT, but this is great for if you need more breathability like in the summer, but you still want some really excellent water resistance. They've got this multiple wraparound layer here, which helps with keeping water out, but also making it a little more durable with the glued sole. So that it doesn't come away. It's got a very rugged leather upper, and it'll protect you from pretty much everything. I will say it feels a little bit more firm up here towards your ankles. I think Vivobarefoot could have cut this a bit lower, but the leather does kind of work in as you use a little bit more. And in terms of the sole, it's 6.5 millimeters. This is the new AT sole. It's more rugged, it's got more protection. You can see the lugs have more surface area here, but still that chevron shape, which is nice for grip. It is a little bit heavier feeling shoe, like I wouldn't trail run in this, but it's great if you're going on super sharp rocks and stuff like that that would tear up a thinner sole, but you don't want something super clunky like a higher boot. If you want an in-between option, this is the Vivobarefoot Magna FG. This is my all-time favorite shoe for like trails and like a work boot and casual walking on roads. It's like literally everything this boot can do. It's got a medium tough leather upper. You know, it's fairly soft, but it's also medium thick, which is nice, provides a little bit of protection. And then it's got this higher mid-cut upper, so it's not quite, you know, a full hiking boot. It's got a lot more flexibility, you know, than most hiking boots, and a slip-on wool blend collar, which is great for, you know, just fastness of getting the shoe on and off, but also breathability with the rib design here. And like I said, you can use it in multiple climates. It will get a little bit hot, you know, like 80 degrees or so, but pretty much everything else it's great for. And then it's got Vivobarefoot's FG sole, which we've talked about, kind of a good do-it-all mid-grade option. For casual, this is one of Vivobarefoot's longest standing shoes. This is the Gobi. It's very lightweight. It's got a leather upper. They have the Gobi Premium as well, which has a bit softer upper. This one's a little more water resistant if you're in, you know, like a wet slushy climate, something like that, but also has a stitch sole, which is great. And then it is 4 millimeters, so very flexible, but just a little bit of protection. For super rugged trails, this is the Vivobarefoot Magna Forest Escape, and it's kind of like the Magna FG. It's got that slip-on upper, still a lot of flexibility, nice soft leather here, but it is mid-weight, you know, so it provides some protection. And this is probably the widest toe box that Vivobarefoot has. The Escape shoes generally are wider, which is great. The strap here can create a little bit of pressure when you first get it, but it softens up over time, then it's not an issue. But in terms of the sole, it's 9.5 millimeters. The Escape sole is very thick. It does feel a little bit heavier, but it's got some excellent traction and really good protection for incredibly rocky terrain, you know, challenging stuff. And there's enough space between the lugs that it also works really well for slippery conditions, but it does feel a little bit clunky on roads. For wet trails, this is a Vivobarefoot Magna water resistant soft ground. It's a mouthful, but has that same upper as the Magna, or the slip-on collar rather. And then the upper material has ripstop on it, so it's got a little bit of protection, and it is fairly water resistant, but it will soak through in really wet conditions. It's, I think, primarily a fast hiking and running shoe where you're more concerned about being able to get moisture out of the boot than being completely waterproof, you know? It's got some minimal protection here, and then that 7.5 millimeter soft ground sole is really flexible and has some excellent grip in wet conditions. Technically, the Vivobarefoot doesn't have this one in stock right now. Hopefully it'll bring it back, but this is the Tracker FG. I really love this boot because it's waterproof, has this really classic looking leather upper. It does get a little bit slim towards the tip, so that's one thing they could fix, but has the FG sole, which again is my favorite hiking sole, and then some nice puffy insulation for colder weather hikes. For winter casual, this is the Vivobarefoot Gobi Warm Lines, and it has a puffy synthetic insulation, which is actually pretty breathable. I really like it. It looks like wool, which is cool. It has a wide toe box, gets a little bit slim towards the very tip, but you can open up the laces quite wide, and the sole is very flexible, so it allows you to have a lot of room here. Great option for higher volume feet up in here. It can get a little bit slim just towards the tip. But generally I can put a lot of socks in these and they're super warm. I've gotten them down to 0 degrees, which is great. They've got a stitched sole and then 3.7 millimeter tread, so really good blend of just a little bit of protection and a ton of flexibility and some minimal grip. And then if you want an all-season option, this is basically the same thing. This is the Vivobarefoot Gobi boot. It just doesn't have the insulation in there. For slightly more protection, this is the Vivobarefoot Scott. It's kind of like the Gobi. Does still have quite a bit of flexibility, but just a little more structure. You know, the leather is a bit thicker. I think these look really cool. They have a nice classic design with a little bit of modern touch to them. They've got a small amount of insulation in there, so they're good cool and cold weather boot. You can't fit quite as much in there in terms of socks just because they have more structure. So I generally use the Gobi, but these are nice if I want to do something classy or if I'm doing something where I need a little more protection, like work boot. They have a 4 millimeter sole, so just a little bit more protective than the Gobi, but still very flexible and comfortable for walking around in city use or light trails. Vivobarefoot also has the Gobi Chelsea, which again is the same thing, just with a slip-on Chelsea upper. It's really convenient, you know, just being able to slide your foot into a comfortable boot like this. The one thing I'll say is that their opening just feels a little bit long to me, so you might want to wear thicker socks so your ankle's not sliding around. This year, Vivobarefoot also introduced the Gobi Hybrid, which is basically the same thing as the Gobi boot and the Gobi warm line, but with a vegan upper. Looks kind of like a puffer jacket for your foot, which is really cool. Has that same insulation here, and then the 3.7 millimeter tread, which is really flexible. Although one last note, I will say that this upper is a little less water resistant than the Gobi leather version. One of my favorite designs from this year is the Vivobarefoot Tracker Mock AT. It's got a traditional Native American moccasin design, which looks really cool. And the leather is softer, so even though it's a higher cut boot, it has some really good flexibility, feels very comfortable. It's notched out in the back, so you get some good flex there. And the toe box is fairly wide, which is nice, and then the leather is flexible. And then it has a gusseted tongue for water resistance, a bit of wool insulation, but not too much, so it's kind of versatile in terms of temperature range. You can stack up socks in there, which is great. And then it's got Vivobarefoot's new AT sole, which, like I said, is a little bit above medium thickness, provides some really good protection and grip on multiple surfaces. But still the gusseted tongue and the rugged AT sole. I haven't tried it yet, but Vivobarefoot also makes the textile tracker AT. This is the old version with the FG2 sole, but the new one has the AT. And this is one of the few boots from Vivobarefoot that's actually rated for being waterproof because it has a membrane. Finally, I've got the Vivobarefoot Tracker Winter SG, and I see they still have the women's version of this, so I'm not sure if they're gonna bring this back or not, but I really liked it. It's kind of like the Tracker AT, has that gusseted tongue, wool insulation, and the extra guard here with the 7.5 millimeter SG tread with pretty good amount of flexibility for a thicker boot and really good traction on wet, slippery conditions. All right, so that's a quick overview of all the Vivobarefoot styles I own, but if you'd like to support the channel, you can shop with the referral links down below. Browse and filter more products with the shoe finder at my website, barefootwear.org, or watch my zero drop transition video to learn more about barefooting. Finally, if you have a question about Vivobarefoot or about barefoot shoes in general, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.